I'm gonna go for dark and spooky.
Perfect.
I was gonna go for dark.
How are you?
This looks good. I'm good. How are you?
Nice Saturday.
Yes, actually, yes, yes. So,
Yep.
although
Yep.
you're. This is when I watched Lost in Space. It's on at 1 o'clock in the. Which is my favorite TV show from when I was a kid. Which funny thing about Lost in Space though is it also that's the first time I ever recorded anything. My parents, I got them to get me a tape recorder so that I could record Lost
Yep.
in Space and hear the audio back when I was in bed at night. And that was the first time I realized
Mm.
how recording is just a magical. How does it work? You save these moments and
Yeah.
you can, anyway, I'm getting carried away myself, but yes,
You still using Tascam recorders and
yeah. I've always been a big four tracker. I always had a four track around. Most recently though, I actually got a big one. I got a 24 track Tascam, which is really
Mhm.
great for demos, such for the Cries
Oh,
Mary stuff. But yeah, recording has just always been a really big, important part
no.
of my everyday existence, actually.
Strange days, no? Last year with COVID, Trump, um, strange days.
COVID, Trump, yes, COVID. You've seen my page. You've seen my Facebook page. You
Yeah,
understand where
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
understand where I come from. I think, yes.
yeah,
But
yeah.
ironically, I hate to say it, with all the awful things that have been happening, um, somehow I've been able to be more musical than I have been in ages. The Sky Cries Mary thing has been very creative. We get to, and we've been able to find ways to work around problems. You can't, being in a studio, you're in isolation
Hmm.
anyway. So so we go into the
Yeah.
studio from time to time, or we email things back and forth, and it's just been a really creative time. And the record
Mhm.
company that we have right now is really supportive of these experimental type things that we're doing, because I think the record companies need content right now. They need music.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so
That's a
that,
cat.
that's actually gonna. I noticed you have cats on your page. That's gonna happen. That's gonna happen here too. There's one circling around, right?
Yeah.
Although I have a fire going, so I have a fire in my fireplace right now, and that usually makes them upset.
Yeah.
Yes, cat lovers for
um,
sure.
in that last year, more than music, family was the most important.
Well, yes, actually,
No?
we've got two boys. Oldest is actually in college in Chicago studying film, but with all the stuff that's been happening, he decided to just work. But
Yeah.
he's living in downtown Chicago and loves it. Our youngest has actually decided to take a gap year. He's a teenager I was telling you about, who's down the hallway, who I was going to ask if I needed any help from, and he'll be going away to college hopefully next year too. But we've been a lucky family compared to so many others
Yeah.
here. I don't know what the situation is like in Spain, but people are pretty sensible in the Seattle area. But this is
Yeah.
just what's going on is just unprecedented, as you know too.
Hmm. Yeah.
But we're doing okay. So thanks for asking.
Hmm. Jack and Dino
Yeah.
recently published that a year ago, Cries
Yeah.
Mary published the last album,
Yeah.
and that Secret of a Red Planet.
Right.
It was a new experience, about 3 days with
Yeah, I
improv
think you
and
got that. Yeah, that was a totally new experience. Someone
yeah.
just chose a key and you just went. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry that I haven't done that before. I mean, it really was. As I think you might have gathered from some of the things I post on my page. I'm a jazz fan, and jazz is all about.
Mhm.
It's all about improvising, and I find it hard to believe that it took me this long to actually try that approach. Um,
Mhm.
with all that, I mean, I listen to mostly jazz, but I'm used to playing pretty rigorously structured rock music Love Battery, we
Yeah.
worked hard on those little interlocking patterns. It's
Hmm.
not really very much improvised except for the jam sections that sometimes occur in the
Hmm.
middles of the song, but it's rigorously not improvised. we worked very hard to make it like bam, bam,
Yeah.
bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
And it turns out that I'm okay at improvising, which I'm surprised. But so was everyone else, of course, too. It's just a really fertile and creative environment. And then, of course, we took some of those things and I made little loops out of the improvisation parts. That's another thing. So we were able to combine. And that's what we're doing with the new record. The new record is not so much, actually, the new record, some of it is derived from the jam sessions that we took from that first record. Because we just played and played and played. And after all my years of doing the Tascam stuff, I'm gotten pretty good about cutting up loops of things, and because that's what all I had to work.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be made up. A lot of them are going to be live loops that were constructed that we played over with again. So it's going to be another different thing. But it's the fun thing about it is it's just been the whole Sky Cries Mary thing has been really creative. It's just like people just come up with ideas and you make them happen. And then of course with this pandemic thing, it didn't slow us down really at all. It's sad that we can't practice, but we're not doing. You don't have to practice when you're improvising.
Yeah.
You don't have to have rehearsals. We've all played our instruments. We've all gotten a certain level of ability on our instruments. So what's really fun is like you just go to the studio. It's like, should we practice? Well, we're gonna practice hitting an E note. I mean, you don't. So that's been really rewarding. There will be a couple of songs that from that same an earlier session that are actually like rock songs.
Yeah.
So
a structure.
It's with verse, chorus, verse, bridge. So there'll be good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's been really fun. Yeah, and we're right.
In the band is Jack Endino, Ben Ireland from Gun of Four is a member, the founder member, Ben Ireland, and Kurt Ekman from Walkabout.
Yes.
Good old friends.
Well,
no?
The funny thing about that is both Ben, you're probably not aware of this, not many people are, both Ben and Kurt played in Love Battery for a little while. In fact, one of our biggest shows in Seattle, they were our bass player and drummer. Because as I think you know, we've gone through a roster of people, but it's pretty easy to play with people that you were already band members with before. So that's helpful. Both Ben and Kurt. Now Jack, of course, as you know, we go way back with because he did our first record. So it's kind of a weird family. and then we were talking about one of the earlier. There was a Sky Cries Mary record, Thieves and Sirens account before. That also has Kurt Danielson and Ron Nye from Love Battery.
Yeah.
So it's a very it's a collective.
Yeah.
Actually, I've heard Sky Cries.
Yeah.
And it's and so it's been very interesting in that sense too.
Reading, this is one another question. Reading the biography, the members of Love Battery, is that it's a big collective of friends. Dan Peters from Mahoney, Bruce Weather, Green River, Mother Love Bone in other moments, Jason Finn from Skyart, people in and out. And you and Ron always.
Yeah, that's true. We have stuck around together as well. But it's kind of funny because it's funny, but it's not, because when I first moved here and met these people, there were like 50 people in Seattle that all played in bands. That's it. It's 1985 or 86. And everyone just played musical chairs, really. Just seeing where everything would fit. everyone was in someone else's band at one point before. And that was another magical part about it, you know, that could all happen like that. Because no one really cared. No one thought that anything was going to happen. No one, I mean, we didn't even get touring bands that would come this far up north. They would just divert and go back for all this stuff to happen. And I was happy enough to get here right at the right time. And I got to be in a bunch of all those musical situations, which was thrilling. But what was nice about it was no one was. One thing I find funny, and I've had to mention before, is when things started to get good and we were all out on tour and everyone was doing well, we'd be interviewed by people who would ask us, "How do you feel about Nirvana doing so well? How do you feel about Soundgarden doing so well?" And they expect us to be angry about that because it was them and not us so much, you know. And we're like, "No, those we were sleeping on our couch last week." You know? How is this bad? If your friends like records, but they wanted to see animosity between the factions, and that's never happened. It's always been, you know. I don't know if you saw that earlier about it. Now I just realized my last show was in November of 2020. Now I got to do a benefit concert. Well, me and Ron got to do it. Where we did that. Tribute, and they had the guys from Soundgarden and all the big names, and they were just the same as when they were throwing up.
Here we go again.
It was just right. We all got to touch base and stuff. But it was always been a productive environment, at least as far as I'm concerned, here in Seattle, that engendered what happened here. So
more than a scene, I think. Yesterday I'm watching the Hype documentary, and the feel is the same. Like when I watched the first time, you are more a couple of friends making music, playing music, with thoughts of making concert, recording, more than a scene, industrial.
It was. You know, I saw that. You know, I saw it when it came. For one thing, I'd like to say that even if you weren't a part of that or anything, I think that's actually a really good documentary. If you just saw it on your, just popped up on your Netflix and something, and you started watching, I think it's really well produced and done. Not just because I'm in it, you know, or you know, barely in it, but I think it accurately represents the situation at the time. But you know, as you know. When it was, it's a
picture, a Polaroid, and I think that documentary is a Polaroid. It's,
Doug Prey did a really great job of that, and it's thrilling to be a part of it. We didn't get to be on the soundtrack. But that's another story. I'm not going to tell, right? But you know, you can't knock anything. We were very happy when I think it was our second, maybe it was our first show, where we opened for Swallow, who were already on Sub Pop, and Jonathan Pauman walked up, shook my hand, and said, "Do you want to do a single?" Sure. And then and they weren't that big then. That was early. That was like 1988. You know, so you know, but they were just starting to get. But it was still like, anyone wants to do a single? That's just great. And then on the strength of that, we were able to get bookings. You know, we were able to get a booking agent because we had, and then we were able to get a van from Sub Pop, and we got $100 a night and a case of beer. Going across the United States,
around the world,
and that's how, and that was,
and
playing every night.
That's the better of that times, no? Touring, meeting people, make the live music.
Yeah, it was a really interesting time. I mean, it's obviously now with everything that's happened, it's a completely different scene. But that touring thing was still a big deal back then. You got to go. You got to go hit those before. This is before social media. You got to go hit those towns over and over. And the first time you're there, you got the first time you're there, you don't even really have any audience at all. You have the bar staff. And what we realize is, if you can make the bar staff go, they'll take you back, because they see bands every night, and they know when someone's good. And we would always make that bar staff just go, God, here's some more free work. And it felt good. I mean, touring with Love Battery was very fun. They liked what we played. Even if we didn't have a huge, we got crowds later, but people liked what we. No one walked out of the room. Everyone was just like, and that there's nothing like being part of something like that. And I'll never forget. And I'm glad I got the chance. And what I really feel bad about now is you know, as I was saying, that last show that we played, that benefit tour at show at the Moore, there were a lot of young. There was like the Naked Giants. The Naked Giants are actually friends of one of my sons here, and they are a band that was clear. You can see, oh my God, they're gonna just go. But all of a sudden, everything gets snuffed out. No one can tour anymore. I mean, people are getting people are getting very creative about producing videos and still making music and putting them out online, and that's going to be of a benefit in the future too, even when things get back to normal. But bands are like sharks. They have to go out there and they have to just keep pushing. And if they have to hang out for a while, people lose interest. Someone says, "I'm going to go to college now." You know, they just start to fall away. You know, maybe that'll work out too. But it's just, I just think about that first time when we realized we had a booking agent and we could go out and play that's the dream. It doesn't matter making millions of dollars. It's like to go out every night and play a show for people and show them what you got. And when we got first offered that booking agent, you know, saying, "Hey, I'll give you $100 and a case of beer and you get to open for Helmet or something like that." It's like, we won. That's it. We're already famous, and now that's a whole avenue that is completely shut off, or at least here right now. You know, and it will come back. And you know, maybe that has made a whole generation of people who worked more on their 4-tracks for a couple of years instead of going out to, you know. So who knows? There's always a bright side, or just knock on wood, to even the worst of calamities. So
the roots are there. The roots are there in that years, from 85 to 89 and 1991. I think before autumn 99 is the change moment, no?
Maybe.
To 92.
Well, you know, it's really hard for me to comment.
That autumn.
Yeah, it's hard for me to comment on that because, you know, one of the things I was going to say about once everything started going, we all lost track of each other and Seattle because we were always touring. So, like in '99, we were still touring, you know, at that time. So I didn't know how things were going in the scene here. I was never around. It's funny. Ironically, I never saw Cries Mary because we toured. We were all touring at the same time. I saw like one of their first shows, and then we were all friends. But I never saw them because we were Tad. Maybe you've seen them. I've seen them like only when we played with them because we were all out touring. And we get back to Seattle and go, "Hey, how's it going?" And then go out and tour. So it was hard to tell what the tenor of the town was like, how the scene was changing. You could see how it was changing, how it affected us. I mean, it was clear that, well, you know, I hate to use the term grunge as an overall term. I think that's, but we can tell. I mean, it seemed like the time was turning. I think it wasn't just that. I think just the idea of live music started to go down a little bit. We toured Europe with Mudhoney in Barcelona.
Yeah, with Mudhoney. Valencia too. Barcelona, Valencia.
One thing that I saw, the first place I saw that happen was, I don't know if it was, I think it was Barcelona when we played with them, and it was a great show, but we played pretty early. And then they were packed, sold out. But when we left to go outside after the show was over, the next show was starting at midnight, and it was a DJ. And there were a longer line down the street for that. And I said, something's changing. So
It
started first there, but then it started to come back to the United States as well. So I don't know if that answers your question about about Seattle and how its scene might have changed. But I think the live music changed in general at a certain point, because like I was saying earlier, that whole thing about going to all these little towns and playing and touring constantly was about word of mouth. It was about word of mouth. First the bar staff would hear stuff, then there'd be 5 people the next time. Next time they'd be 50. Next time they'd be 200. So, but that, and I'm sure that still kind of exists to a degree, or it will come back, but it was a different thing. So I'm not, I guess I'm trying to say I'm sort of out of touch with how things changed then, and certainly now that everything's different.
For that early years, with the fanzines, the small locals, rehearsals, not contracts, not lawyers, without contracts. What's the most beautiful moment from 85 to 91, 92, the first time? Okay, the first years.
Well, it's like I was saying before, the fact that we were able to even put out records is, I'm older, people didn't just put out records all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And the first time the needle went down on Between the Eyes, the 45, I was just like, so to answer your question, and then that was in 1989, that was it. And I was like, done. I was like, when I first heard my feedback going, howling out, you did it. You did it. I'm getting chills right now about even thinking about that. So then everything else was just like icing. It's just like, no, you did it. Because it was never about money anyway. It would really be nice to make money, not to have to do, because I have to have a job.
Yeah. Talking with Gary Leconer in November, I think so. He says they are make the energies, or putting the energies in make good songs. But not with contracts, lawyers, and the industry.
We had a lot of that, though. We had a lot of drama along those lines. I mean, I guess I don't know if this is common knowledge, but we were Sub Pop. That's a long story. Like I was saying, thank you for putting out our first records and adding us to that. To that stable of artists. It's definitely an honor. We felt that we were never a priority with them, so we were happy to try to go with a major label when that opportunity arose. But I don't know this, but we had some legal problems with Sub Pop that hobbled us. The Far Gone record was supposed to be our first major label record, and they insisted that we owed them another record, and that was a problem. And that was not there. That's what record companies do. That was I must say, the fault of our the people that we had working for us. And this is what's been going on historically with record. It's all sort of water under the bridge, because, as I say, I'm just happy that they put out records in the first place. And the same thing with the next record label. We were with Atlas, that's where we put out Straight Feet Ticket. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that, but that's that's a very good record. But we didn't meet the benchmarks that they needed to keep us. But they put out the record, and so instead of being upset about it, we said thank you. And not only that, they let us have the tapes that we had been working on for the second record that didn't get released. That became Confusion a Go-Go. They let us have it for free, even though they recorded it at great expense. So we've had good and bad experiences with the record companies, but we've definitely had we've run the gamut. But we've done better. We did better than others in that sense, because some of our friends ended up owing money to their people who came into major label records. We ended up getting, not only did they give us the tapes that ended up becoming another record that we made money from, they gave us a severance package. It was great. I can't say enough about that company. So we've been
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. And like I said, Sub Pop did what records do. They
Yeah.
perceived that they could get.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's the Polydor moment with an offer and Sub Pop. Well,
Exactly. I mean, we thought we were free and clear, and then Polydor came in with an offer, and they said, "Nope, you owe us one record." If you want to know the details of it, it's because they claimed that Between the Eyes was an EP and not an album, and we owed them 3 albums, and so they said we only gave them two and 2/3. But that's not.
Yeah.
If you want to know the details, that's not true because we were getting paid an album rate for that. But the problem was we could have fought that, but that would have put us off of being able to sign a contract with them to come in for a year, which would have. So they knew that, and I don't blame them at all, even though they're friends of ours. That's business. This is business. Let's be serious here. We fired our lawyer because she should have seen that coming.
You speak about music, and the enterprises speak about money.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
it's not the same language.
You pay someone to think about the money so that you can think about the music.
Yeah,
so you did not represent us adequately. So, but you know, it all.
Yeah.
I hate this term, but it's all good.
Yeah. No, and the last album, Confusion a Go, is with the CZ Records. CZ. With an old skinja
Daniel
again,
House, Daniel House.
An old friend, Daniel House,
and yeah, he just put it out. It was just really great of him to do so. And of course, you know, that's what's back in the family again, since he was from Skinyard, and now I'm with Jack.
3 drummers in the album too.
It all goes together some weird way here. Yeah, so that was great. And that was the one I think if you might have read. Dan Peters played did a lot of the drums on there, which he's always done. So well, now that we're so Dan Peters also goes way back with us because I was his housemate, him and Steve Turner, when they were in Mudhoney, and I was starting out in Love Battery. So it was really great because that's when they were starting to tour all the time. So they were always gone, which was. Actually, and then later on, Dan was also in at the same time Nirvana, Screaming Trees, and Mudhoney for like a 2-month period. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happened during that time period.
Recording with Jack and Dino. Coming back to the Cries Mary last album, how it is? Is your first recording with Jack? You have recorded years before with him, or?
Well, no. Well, he engineered our first. He engineered the Between the Eyes record, so we go way. Oh, actually, I go back with him before that. I was in a band with Jason Finn from Love Battery. Called Rodeo before that, and we recorded at Reciprocal. We actually and that's the first time I met Jack. So that's more like early 1988, and we actually had a minor back then KCMU record hit that came out, and that got some attention. And that was a band. Gets kind of confusing, but this was a band that was made up of a band called H Hour, which is where Tad came from. I don't know if you have you heard of H Hour? Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
So that's where they came from.
No.
They came from.
No.
That's where Tad came from. They moved from Boise to Seattle, and they had a band that everyone loved called H Hour. But then they broke up.
Yeah.
And so they broke up. Tad became Tad. He didn't call himself that then, but he put out his first single called Sex God Missy. The other people from that band, I joined, and we were called Rodeo. And we had Jason Finn taking over Tad's position, and that band ended up morphing into Love Battery at some point because Ron lived right down the street, and he met Jason at a party one night and said, I want to play in another band. And so he came up, and so he said, I live up the street, I got a guitar player, I got a guitar player and a bass player, and he came up, and we played the next day, and we were a band. But I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
In 214, 215, Vaporland.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
sounds the album for me sounds like the old times,
Oh, yeah?
like a 19th album. You have the same feeling composing the songs with the rehearsals, with that feels the songs
Well,
is a timeless song.
well, I'm glad to hear you say that. We haven't had a lot of feedback really on that. We didn't have the kind of distribution situation that like Cries Mary has, or certainly Love Battery has. So I never really heard. Well, there's certainly we get a lot on our page, but I haven't listened to it for a while. So I haven't reflected on it for a while. I know I enjoyed the time very much, and I really enjoyed playing with Kurt too. Of course, I playing with Ron, or I wouldn't continue to do so. But I didn't know that Kurt had that kind of flexibility. He's just a great bass player. I mean, I knew that before, but he can play all different kinds of styles, and I wasn't aware of that. It was also really nice to have a female vocalist, just like Cries Mary. Now I think it's just essential, really. You have to have that kind of tonality. I liked the songs. One thing I liked, as I commented before, Love Battery was kind of rigid in its arrangements and structures. I found that Vaporland was more fun in a sense because it's a lot more bluesy, and it kind of allowed me, just like Cries Mary, to kind of just play more lead, just kind of solo more, improvise more. Once again, moving into the in the direction of being more improvisational. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really like and was part of the architect of the locking things in Love Battery, the way it's set up like that. I mean, there's a sad. I mean, I'm a Steely Dan guy. I like really complex but interlocking pieces. So, but at the same time, being able to actually just jam over free-flowing chordal progressions without trying to be too jacky, has its place. It does. And so Vaporland, and it's too bad that because there were some health problems that we had with some people. Katie, who's much better now, we had to stop that, but we were always interested in continuing it, and still are. Although Kurt seems to travel a lot now. He's always in Mexico or something, so that makes it a little bit difficult. But we had a bunch of new great songs, and that was another nice thing about Vaporland too. There were three writers, so there were actually three distinct voices in it, which is always nice. And then, of course, like I said, with the shifting vocals, two lead vocals and a female. It just turned out to be kind of a platform where you could, because I've always been the kind of person who I don't usually come up with lyrics or sing, but I come up with chord progressions and things like that, and I usually bring them in after I've recorded them on myself, demos of them. And what was great about starting especially great about Vaporland was anybody in that band can play anything. So if you have a country and western song, they can do that. If you have a disco song, they can do that. That's really if you listen to that Vaporland record, there's a lot of different sort of styles in there. So you see, I think you want to.
It's open. It's an open album. And sounds for me sounds sweet and acid.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm gonna have to give it another listen.
Sometimes sounds sweet and creamy, but in other songs sounds acid, psychedelic, or more fuzzy. And this is.
I'll check.
No, I like much this album.
I'll check it out. I mean, we get a lot of activity on the Vaporland page, and I keep on saying, but we're not really doing anything anymore. People keep asking us shows. It's like, well, we're but don't count it out, because like I said, we actually have songs that we've already demoed, so we could listen to them and play them, and Strange Earth Records would put it out. That's Van Connor's label. They love it. They love us. They were so. Thanks for asking.
Is it not? With going to Love Battery, if you see, we start with Cries Mary, is the most recent project. After we go to Vaporland, and now we need to go to Love Battery. With Ron, 30 years of relationship with adventures, touring, making music.
Yeah, and he lives right.
How about
right.
Ron?
He lives right down the street from me, like from where we live on Capitol Hill.
You are with making music with Ron 9 about 13 years.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, that it's been this long. But there's a certain completion factor. For one thing, I'm a huge fan of his lyrics. His lyrics are terrific, and they bring something out of me. Like when I hear, so when I'm playing along, I hear what he's saying, and it makes me play something. So that's a valuable thing. I mean, as much as I would like to do something, and I will, I'm not that old. I will be doing other musical projects.
Yeah.
Because as it happens these days, the music that I like has a little bit less guitar than in the bands that I've been accustomed to. So in the future, from me, side Cries Mary aside, music that I put up by myself, and I do plan on putting out music of my own. There's just no doubt about that. I'm more bass and drums oriented, believe it or not, with sparse guitar. I think more, think more trip hop, think more Fugazi. I just don't like a whole lot of, but it has worked out well so far. But Ron has just been great. I do get to see him from time to time. But what we do now is every couple of years or so, with this disaster change things. We get together every couple of years. I think you saw that Slim's show, and now we just play with the Dayglow band is what we call it, the one that has Jim. And that's the only time we play anymore, and we seem to get a really good response when we do that. We have no plans really to do any more Love Battery type stuff, although it turns out that John Palman over at Sub Pop, with help from Jack and Dino, who's been whispering in his ear, it is open to the idea of remixing and reissuing Far Gone, which we think was botched. The mixing of it anyway. We love the songs, we play them live all the time, but we don't like them much.
And that album is without mixing.
So they've been open about that, and once that occurs, then there's probably a chance that we play more shows. I think you posted me before. You were listening to the KEXP show that we did back in 2019. And I mean,
awesome live.
We only rehearsed once.
You broke the screen.
Oh yeah.
It's their feelings. Not see the screen. No, I'm seeing live.
Well, and we only recorded rehearsed once. That was it. And when we got into the room, we're like, when we went to the first rehearsal to do that, we were like, we've got something. Oh, there's a reason. Oh, that's the reason why. That is cool. Oh yeah, we're actually pretty good.
There's no. There is energy. If you get energy,
it was a chemistry.
The rest is play music and enjoy.
Yeah, well, it's a chemistry.
The chemistry, the energy is there.
So
it's
there. Really fun, and so hopefully we can have a chance to do that again. Because I mean, we had a great crowd. People were just screaming that night, and it was just like, well, okay, this is what it's all about. But Ron, I have to say, is great. He's doing well. He's very healthy. He's not really playing any music, as far as I know, at the moment. But it's time for me to give him a ring and just see what he's up to, actually. But he's definitely doing good.
And maybe solo projects or for you? you don't want to make your own songs and make little songs
Yeah.
with a home studio.
Yeah, it's it's funny. Every time I try to do that, someone calls me. So it's like
Yeah,
just like in my play.
yeah,
That's what happened with Cries Mary. I was just because
yeah.
frankly now I'm in the position where I could actually spend money on my own to go to a studio and do things right because I've always been a
Hmm.
prolific recorder. So I have what my wife calls my shoebox. I have a lot of songs that I've already recorded. I know how they're supposed to
Yeah,
go, and I know exactly how they're supposed to be arranged. And I've been relishing the
yeah.
idea, truthfully, of being able to hire people and say, "Do that. Don't argue with me.
What?
You play this bass line right there. You drummer, you play drums just like this."
Yeah.
And then I do my thing. I've been waiting. I'm almost 60 years old. I've been waiting for this moment
Yeah.
all my life. But it's actually kind of working out almost now because I'm getting to direct a lot of stuff with this new Cries Mary thing because a lot of them are
Mhm.
based on, as I was telling you earlier, samples that I made of live stuff that I put my own instruments
Mm.
over, and then I ship them off to Roderick
Yeah.
in New York, and he sings over them. And the result is it's me playing 5 instruments and Roderick singing and only one other person playing one. So I'm getting to that, it's because they're just very open. They're just very about open any kind of thing. And I've just got into this looping. I know this is getting confusing, but I've just been getting into this looping thing that I do with them, pulling out these parts and gotten good at digital manipulation of musical stuff.
Yeah.
And then I ship it off.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone's doing right now because you kind of have to with the COVID thing. You have to figure out how to use technology and the best. Amazing what you can do. It's just amazing what you can move around and edit and re-edit and change and share.
Yeah. It's it's the moment for things like this.
Yeah.
Musicians are at home, not touring, and if you love music, making music and talk about music, it's easy. It's more easier with the technology.
Well, it's perfectly
talking with David.
Yeah.
Talking with David Abruzzese from Pearl Jam. David is making collaborations with people around the world. And he has his studio at home and making drums and making overdubs and sending to people around the world.
And they're making platforms that make it even easier. Every day it gets easier. And right before the whole thing hit, I realized I've been using like these little 8-track digital things to do home recordings. And I said, what do you just go buy? You're not kidding. So I went and bought a 24-track. And it's like, oh my God, you can make professional recordings on 24-track. So now those used to I used to just like finish up a song and go, okay, that's great. And I used to just put it away. Or I used to show it to the band that I was playing with at the time. But we're not doing live band stuff anymore. You used to just go into, like I said, my wife calls it the shoebox. But now you can just hit a send button and send it out everywhere. And one of your bandmates can go, I got something that will go with that. And then they add something to it. And then they send it to someone else. And someone adds vocals. And someone adds a snare drum here. It's thrilling, actually. So it's working good. Yeah.
Joe Lally from Fugazi, for example, he's making bass lessons, online bass lessons. To a kid or a girl who love Fugazi and make bass sessions with Joe Lally.
It's amazing,
it's amazing.
I've become friends with a lot of people.
It's amazing.
I'm, Facebook friends with him, but I'm also like, it's amazing who you can become friends with. Like Hugo Burnham is like from the Gang of Four is like my hero, and like every day I'm like nattering around with him about politics. It's like, oh my God, I'm talking to Hugo Burnham about politics. Because he's a professor. He teaches at Emerson College, I think, in Boston. It's funny.
But the most important.
I mean, I have to say that's why I think social media has its problems, but I think it has a lot of pluses. getting to know you, for example,
Yeah. No, thank you.
yeah.
No, but I think it's easy because we are talking the same language. We love music. We love make music, listen music, producing music, and it's the same language around the world.
Evidently,
People
yeah.
loving music, and Dave Abrucis says it's important in that times smile and share good emotions and well live concerts
Yeah.
have something of this
Yeah.
like a ritual collective moments and now we need to make with another technology and in another canal or a channel
Yeah.
sorry
Right. No, I got it.
in another channel
Yeah.
and not it's not possible to make a concert a big concert
Yeah.
but it's possible to people talking and sharing music feelings
Yeah.
and creations.
Yeah. Humans adapt, that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
part about it. I mean, this sort of interface that we're doing right now seemed strange to me a year ago, but now I'm getting much more comfortable
yeah,
with it already. We started doing Zoom happy hours with people that we used to go to happy hours.
yeah,
And at first it was like, it's weird. And then it's like, then it's totally normal. You know how to look at a person's face. You can still see their face move and do stuff. And,
yeah,
the cues get exchanged still. And it's not
yeah.
100%, but it's the best we can do. And it's important.
Mm,
It's important that we keep up these types of communications between us however possible.
yeah,
However possible.
yeah,
So, I'm hoping that good can come from what has happened over the past. I mean, people keep in that last Zoom happy hour. Someone pointed out that after the influenza of 1918, the
yeah.
the period that followed was very creative. The Roaring '20s. So we're looking forward to the Roaring '20s right now. Not the '30s
Yeah.
so much, but the 30s weren't so good. But the Roaring '20s anyway. But let's have a toast to, at least hopefully I think some things have gotten a little bit better over the
Yeah,
past.
yeah. It's needle. Need is a human need. The communication with people.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's the
yeah, definitely.
the reason.
Yeah, things just seem a little bit better right now than they were before. So let's just hope they continue on a better level than they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing.
With coming back to the change in the music, Seattle have changed a lot with like a city. You are from Seattle?
No, I'm not from Seattle at all.
No, you live in Seattle from what year?
Well, this is a long story. I got here just the right time, but no, I got here when I first got here, I actually moved to Bellingham, Washington, which is a smaller city right by the Canadian border. And because I had a friend that I went to college with back on the East Coast. I'm from the East Coast of from New Hampshire, actually. I'm from a rural area outside of Boston. And I didn't even know anyone who played in a band. I never went to clubs or shows. They didn't have anything like that. We had barns, cows. And I went to college. If you want to know the story, I went to college in New Hampshire to study English. But after a couple of years, I flunked out. But I ended up really getting very involved in playing guitar when I was there because I didn't know it at the time, but it was a really great music school. So there were a lot of great musicians around. And I ended up living in a house with a bunch of them. And they showed me stuff like Jeff Beck, which I thought was like jazz. No one's singing. Like wired and blow by blow, where there's no vocals. That was like freaky. It's like there's no one singing. This is like so crazy. It's just instrumental people play. And then before I knew it, I was a jazz head, you know. So anyway,
Yeah.
but then I flunked out of college. My parents disowned me, and I ended up just kind of traveling with my guitar all over different. I was in South Carolina for a while. I was always playing guitar. I played on a TV show for backing a singer for a few minutes. I was in Dallas, Texas. Now, when I was in Texas, that was kind of a turning point because I worked at a nightclub as a working in the green room where the musicians hang out before they play. And I met a bunch of people. I met like Don McLean from American Pie. You know, I met Robert Plant, Phil Collins.
Wow.
Because this was a club that was like a pretty nice nightclub, and they would have good acts and people would come to see people. And I ended up getting to talk to these people, and they actually encouraged me. This is 1983. They're encouraging me.
Wow.
I showed Don McLean something I was working on. He goes, you should play a guitar. So I told my parents, you see, because they were pretty down on me at the time. And then I ended up I just couldn't take Texas anymore, and I decided that Seattle just seemed like the place to be because it was cheap, really cheap at the time, and the weather was the weather's decent. You know, it doesn't get too cold, and I got there and I moved, but I ended up moving to Bellingham, which is north. There's a college up there. I got into my friend who lived there, who I originally met back. I got into a cover band that played David Bowie and Talking Heads stuff, but we were really popular. We played nightclubs and they would just love it, and that gave me a little money. And then I moved to Seattle finally, just in time for this stuff to happen. You know, I moved into a house with a bunch of people, and they said, and I still was always a 4-tracker, but people practiced at our house, and there was a band practicing in our house, and their guitar player had to go back to school, and they came up to my bedroom and knocked on the door, and they said, "You're pretty good. Don't you want to be in a band?" I said, "No." No. You should think about it. And so I said, "Well, can I play Mixolydian scales?" And he said, "You can play whatever you want." I said, "Okay, I'm in." And that was it. And that was the rodeo. That was the rodeo band I was talking about. And then that was straight up from there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers. I think I might have veered off your question. No, but you asked me where I was from. Yeah, so I'm actually from the East Coast, and it was impossible.
The city.
I'm from Boston.
The city have changed a lot.
Well, then
the concert locals are closed. Cities it's more modern or postmodern or more cleaner.
Yeah. Well, this city has definitely, you know, as with every city, has changed. It's really sad, you know, that people can't play out anymore. But that, I think, will change before too long.
There are big companies in Seattle too.
Yeah, and they're putting some money into getting people inoculated and all that kind of stuff too. I mean, they recognize that this has to be defeated, you know. But you know, I live in what I like to call the overpriced cocktail district of Capitol Hills, downtown Seattle. Yeah. We have lots of fancy restaurants and bars right out from the house here, and they have taken they're packed. They're full of people. And we're still in the middle of this pandemic. I can't understand that. Yeah. You know, that's not smart. Yeah. And so they don't realize that this is extending this period that we're not going to be able to do stuff. And it's, I mean, what's really sad is me and my wife, we don't go out anymore. Anyway, I'm almost, even though we have nightclubs. But now, what we're hoping is, once this has passed, it's going to make people much more eager to consume live music and to go out to see, go out to see art, go out to see movies again. That's my hope, and I think it's possible, you know, because people have been shut in for so long. They're going to really enjoy going out to see concerts and going out to hopefully. If that's I'm just trying to look for upsides of what's going on. I think that's a potential upside to what's been happening, and then music may come back. I think that, you know, they did pass a bill here that's called Save Our Stages, which is supposed to help keep
Mhm.
these nightclubs open until they can be
Yeah.
open, you know, paid for till they can open. And so we'll see what happens with that. And I know people who own those.
Mm.
I mean, this is really sad here. I mean, you know, I know people who, you know, own a lot of restaurants here in town too. It's just been an awful
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
the reason why Seattle flourishes, or most of these flourishes, is because you have a compact area where you can have access to culture. And now you don't. At least,
Yeah. 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 You know your wife in that times, in concert times, maybe, no?
I met her right when all that self-employment was happening. I met her right in around 1989. And I got to tell you, the worst part about it was all of a sudden we're on tour, right? But I just met this girl. You've seen the pictures, right?
Yeah.
It was terrible. While it was thrilling to be on tour with a rock band, because this is I mean, I met her like the same year. 1989. And all of a sudden it's like, what? Wait, we gotta go on. Okay, cool, we're going on tour, but wait, what? It was hard. I still remember. It was heartbreaking. To
Yeah.
be, because, you know, it's not that exciting. You have to drive in this country is huge.
Yeah.
So you have to drive 300 to the next city. It's always 300 miles every day. You get no sleep.
Yeah.
And like I said, on those first tours, you're playing to the bar staff and 5 people, but it's still fun. It's still fun. And then, but then you got to go party with the people. So that was a must. You have to do that. But then you get no sleep, and you go the next thing. And then there's there's no social media. There's no social media. There's a payphone usually. It's like, and she was always like, "Come home now," and it's like, oh. It was. I still hear her saying that. So that was really bad. But yeah, we weathered it. We've been together for a long time. While I was gone, she became a teacher, and then she became a principal of a high school or a middle school. Then she was the executive director of schools in Seattle. And now she's the chief academic officer of a nearby school district. So she's done well for herself.
You take the best of the scene, then.
Yeah, do well. Yeah, I married well, and happy about that.
I think that the family is the more important.
Well, that's something, you know.
Music is important, and well, touring, making records, but I think it's better with your girl or your child, your friends.
Well, you know.
And
it's funny you should say that, because I can't agree with you more, because all I ever wanted, and I was telling you earlier that when that needle dropped on Between the Eyes and I heard that howl of my guitar, I said, I'm done. I'm serious about that, because you know that I know some of the people who have done very well here.
Yeah.
And they're great guys, and they're happy. I assume that they're pretty happy. But I got famous enough. I don't think that if it had gotten more, I would have had my family. I think that it's just too time, or I wouldn't have been able to pay as much attention to my family as I've been able to. I got to once all of this, I mean, all I ever wanted was to be able to go into a record store and see a record, and I can go almost anywhere in the world and find, and find one of my records. Well, here. And that's all I ever dreamed of. And I got that that way beyond that. And I think that if we had done even a little bit more better, things wouldn't have worked out the way they have. I've got one son studying film in Chicago in college. Then my other one, who's in the other room right now, is actually going to go to the same college next year to study film there. I'm not sure this would have happened. And I'm pretty happy with the course that my life took. And I'm really happy that girl picked me up in that bar on Pike Street here in Seattle, Pine Street in Seattle, when she
Yeah.
did. And what the funniest thing is we went back to her place. And I said, yeah, like, no, really, call this radio station and they'll play my song. And that was back in case. And she called it, and within 15 minutes they did. She was like, oh my God. And, you know, there's just a kind of a charmed existence that we've lived by being here during that period. Because, you know, for my kids, they don't think it's exciting at all that they can find that their father has records in record stores. They're like, doesn't everyone's father have records? What? Which is kind of fun in itself too. It keeps you humble.
Yeah.
But you're right about
talking about
the family thing. So
talking about kids. You have a video recorded by by Roman Coppola.
Yes, yeah. He was a great guy. Yeah,
How Roman Coppola and recorded records.
Finally got signed to Polydor, to a major label. They have their mechanisms. So when they pick they decide. They were actually really good. They gave us a lot of creative control. They didn't really do anything. They did, like, you hear those stories about how they say, no, that song's not going to work. They didn't do anything like that with us. No. The only thing they did was they did a radio edit of one of our songs that made it 20 seconds shorter. You know, and that's it. But they didn't tell us what to do or anything. And we all agreed about what song should be. We had like 2 from Straight Free Ticket. That was the Polydor record that we agreed would be the single. So once we've all decided on a single, then they send it out to people who might be interested in doing the video, directing the video, and then you sort through them. I mean, we had a bunch of offers. We had, like, Spike Jones made an offer because we were kind of a hot property at the time. No one knows how you're going to do. You know, we were a new band from Seattle, signed to Polydor. Here's the hit single, and people liked the song. Yeah. So they're like, yeah, we'll do it. And Roman was one of those people who I forget what because they send you a reel of the things that they've done, and then you make a decision based on that. And I remember the reels that we got. Some of them were just amazing stuff. I remember Spike Jones, someone from Ween, the Boogie Oogie Oogie, they shot completely underwater. It's like, wow. But so we got Roman wanted to do it, and we said, I don't think we chose it because of his name. I think it was actually, I can't remember what band he had done that we liked so much. But we said we let him do that one, and it was the first professional video shoot that I've ever musical video shoot that I've done. And what I remember about him was he was a really, really mellow and kind and creative guy. And I've never seen an actual film crew work before, and I never realized how they all work together, and they work together for years usually. And seeing that in motion. I'll never forget that. That was really cool. I'm sure he still has the same crew now, even to this day. But it was a really great experience, and I liked what he came up with. Yeah, and same with the other one. There was the one for the Las Vegas one too. Was because he did Harold's Pink Room, but the one from Las Vegas was Fuzz Factory.
Yeah, Harold's Pink Room.
That was the same kind of situation. Not as interesting, but.
Another thing watching Hype is a little war with fashion or against attitude, punk rock. Is that the war? Is that your feelings are more nearly from attitude, rock, punk rock, making songs, and mass media are talking about grunge, Seattle scene, fashion, Vogue, Vanity Fair.
Well, I'm not sure.
Was something like this in that time?
Well, you were talking about an attitude at the time when this was going on, or I'm not really clear on that question.
Attitude, enjoy music, make songs, not be like the 80s standard with rock, gas, tal.
Oh, I think I know what you mean about that. I don't think there was a I don't think that, that's how it seems to be portrayed. In fact, I think I was watching something on TV earlier about how, Nirvana made it impossible for the hair bands before that to be considered
Yeah.
legit of any kind. I don't really think that there was any in my view, because it was actually really close. I mean, one thing you may not be aware of, for example, is like right before all that stuff happened, Seattle had a lot of those kinds of bands, the hairish bands, the glam.
Yeah.
But they were more like the New York Dolls. Really, were kind of
Yeah.
what was Seattle bands were like. There's a very thin veneer between that. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Kurt Cobain was doing that just another year before that. So that was never totally like an idea like, no, that's not legitimate.
Yeah.
It moved very quickly from that, But, as you know, the fashion sense of Seattle, that wasn't fashion. That's just how people, it's cold. Not as cold as where I come from.
Yeah.
I'm dressed in flannel, well, not right now, but I'm dressed in long johns and holy boots now. So that's just how people dress. But I don't think there was I actually have to say, I think there's really certainly there's always a punk rock attitude. I suppose that was in there too. But, I don't know if you're aware, you might have seen it posted the other day, but I mean, in 1989, the same year, I was playing bass for Crisis Party. Which is one of the first bands from Seattle to get a major record label deal. I played bass for them, and that's a full-on leather. That was a leather heavy metal band. At the same time, so I don't know if you know how that. I don't know if you know how that works, because I was roommates with the bass player for them.
Yeah.
I recruited him out of. He hated that band because they were all junkies and they were always fighting, even though they had a record label. And they were cool. I was a huge fan of them. I thought, but they were a heavy metal band. He quit, and we all started Love Battery together. After he quit, they were about to record a record, and they didn't have a bass player, so they asked me to join. they gave me some. They gave me some leathers. Yeah, they gave me some leathers. They actually gave me. I borrowed some leathers. Have you seen I couldn't find it earlier, but I was going to show you because I think you knew about it. It's Crisis Party. Look it up. And I'm sitting there wearing leather, and it's great stuff. But it's like only 4 months before I did the Love Battery stuff. Yeah. So
wow.
So
no more. Half enough.
So yeah, it's all the same stuff. It's funny.
With
one thing I'll add to that is like we were recruited from another one record label, and we thought we were all punk rock and stuff like that, and then this is a whole different world, because this was Columbia Records talking to us, and the guy looked at us and said, "It's all shoes. It's brown shoes. It's black shoes. It's gray shoes. It's all shoes." And we're like, no, our music is special. It's like, it's all shoes, black shoes, brown shoes. And we laughed and we said goodbye. We said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And he was right.
Maybe was a response, an ironic response to the heavy metal in the Seattle bands. Our metal like Melvins or Tad, but with an ironic vision, with a more amateur vision, or
how we differ from someone like Tad, or is that? Well, that's something I should be honest about as well. Now, I never really listened to much pop.
Well done.
No, not that, I just don't, I don't listen to, even back then, I don't listen to that much rock music. I listen to mostly hip hop, trip hop, jazz. I've been funkadelic. I've always been more. I'm black. I listen to more black music. It's always been that way. My funny story is that when I first arrived in Seattle and went to see, like, I guess what would be a grunge show. I don't know who was playing. I was just like, oh my God, these people are playing Black Sabbath. I mean, I don't have anything against them, but like, I stopped listening to that. I stopped listening to that when I was like 17. It's like, these people are still listening to Black Sabbath. I couldn't believe it. But there wasn't, like you said, there was an energy. There was something that was a little bit different about it that I could still find a part of. But I mean, I'm more of an Elliott Smith kind of guy than a Nirvana. That's just where I'm at. I mean, not that I remember seeing Nirvana the first time they played, and all I remembered was the bass player's tall. No, I mean, I'm not trying to put them down because they have their thing, that's for sure. But it's not something that I usually put on my record play. I don't usually pull that out very often. And we then the next time I saw them, we played with them at the Annex Theater, and so on a 2-band bill. So I definitely got. And then the last time I saw them, this is a kind of a funny story. We were playing in Tempe, Arizona, at the local punk rock club, a nice big one. And then we found out that Nirvana was playing at the Coliseum down the street. And we didn't have tickets or anything, but we went around to the back and we said, "We're from Seattle, let us in." And they let us in. And then we went to the back door and we pounded, same thing. Let us in. We know these guys. And because Mud Honey was opening too, so of course we were all great friends, and they let us in. And it was just so weird because the last time I'd seen them was when we had played with them at the Annex Theater with like 200 people, and then it was like, I don't know how many, I don't know.
Yeah.
And Kurt walked by on his way, and he was like surprised to see me, and he waved at me. And that's the last time I ever saw him. But it's just a strange turn of events that.
You play with him in '89, no? Nirvana, Love Battery.
April 7th.
Chad Tannen, maybe, with Chad Tannen, still Chad Tannen in the band.
I can't. Once again, I can't remember that well about that. I think. Well, for one thing, they were playing. Both bands were playing on the floor. There was a stage, so you couldn't really see very well, But I don't know. You're asking how many people were playing in the band?
In the '89, was Chad Tannen, maybe.
It was April of 1989. I think it was only a 3-piece at the time. Yeah, when I saw
without Jason.
When I saw the first time was about 6 months earlier at Squid Row, and that was because they had just recorded with Jack the last of the songs at Reciprocal, and Jack was then still close with Jason, who was in Skin Yard, and he called us up and said, this band is playing right down the block from you tonight. You should probably go check them out. So we did. But Kurt said something once funny himself. He said, "I think our most interesting songs sound like the Pixies." And I had to agree.
No.
That's what he said. And I had to agree. Yeah.
But you have played with a lot of bands, John Fresh Fellows, L7, Hole, and different bands.
Yeah. Well, that might be because a lot of those were because of our booking agent, the same one I was talking about before, who got us first $100 in a case of beer. That was Peter Davis out of Minneapolis, and he had a lot of amphetamine reptile bands like Helmet, L7. Sister Double Happiness, others like that, and he thought it was a good idea to have bands like Helmet play with us, which we thought was ludicrous. We were like, "What are you doing?" But it worked. And not only that, we all became the biggest fans of each other. there were a
Yeah.
lot of L7 helmet Love Battery tours all over the country where we all switched. It was great.
Yeah.
And the helmet guys are just well, everyone such nice people.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
it's such a great time.
Helmet is still touring with a band.
Are they?
I think they are not going with, not now,
Yeah.
but they are making concerts with 50 years from Aftertaste, 20 years from tal, and they are making tourings
Well,
still.
Helmet were really funny because we had heard of them before. I mean, we heard them before, and it's like we thought we didn't know what to expect from these guys. We're like, oh my God, are these like
Yeah.
horrible, thuggish people? And no, they're a bunch of jazz heads who figured
No, yeah.
jazz heads who figured out how to like use one finger to play.
Yeah, friendly, sweet.
We're like, oh my God, we're so scared. It's Helmet. And they went,
Hello. We are, yeah.
just jazz guys. Who like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we really
Yeah.
got along really well. Actually, it's funny when we were in New York with where they're from, and we had a big round of when we were being courted by the record labels. We played a show at the China Club, and the record labels took us out to dinner, and they actually broke down our gear and packed it into our van. Helmet guys did that. It's like, I've actually just recently reconnected with them via Facebook, and we were having a good time chatting about that. So
That's good people connecting with good people.
Yeah. So, like I said, it was Peter Davis who put those packages together. I think it's a good idea. I mean, that's the kind of show I'd want to see, is something, a band that's different from the one before. I just don't, that seems like a much better and more entertaining.
For me, I love that nights with bands we not similar, not musical, with different styles.
Yeah,
and I love that.
Yeah, I don't know why that's not. I think I don't know why more people don't do that. But we'll see what happens in the future. Maybe that's something that people will figure out too once we start seeing live shows again.
A hardcore band. You play with Circle Jerks?
Yeah, that was a long. Yeah, that was one of our. I think that was our first West Coast tour. But yeah, I mean that's what you want to see, is different kinds of things. Because I don't know about you, but I mean my tastes range so far and wide. And I don't know if you listen to KEXP that we have here, that radio station that you saw us play on earlier, but they've always done a good job of playing, different themes one after another. Yeah. And that's just how I've always been. So.
Well, for me, what time we are here?
It's 2:18 for me.
I would like to say thanks to you.
Well, thanks.
It's such a grateful conversation.
I really appreciate it. Do you record these?
Yeah.
Oh, so I could...
Instagram. I make in Instagram because now when I stop, immediately or Instagram puts all the interview.
So I can see how I can go back and see how foolish. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that there's a.
So really big hug for you, for your family, for friends, and it's a really pleasure. Before knowing you, I think was funny and a good conversation. But after knowing you, is more better than I dreamed.
Well, I appreciate that. I enjoyed it as well.
Excuses about my English.
No,
and try.
What's sad is my Spanish is gone. I actually studied Spanish in college. But I don't get to speak it anymore, and so I can read. I can read it, but I'm so embarrassed. I can't even get there. I mean, but writing it and reading it, I can still do very well, but I cannot speak it. My voice.
I think I am. I think I'm making that conversation for putting up my English
Yeah.
level
Uh,
with looks the looks or best
oh
teachers
yeah.
that I can with you.
Well, it works. It worked for me. It worked for me.
So
Just stay
thanks,
safe. Stay safe.
thanks.
And best to you. Do you have a
Same.
family as well?
Yeah.
You got kids? You
Yeah,
got kids?
we are
Oh,
well.
good, good, good.
Yeah.
All right.
I have two kids, and um, last year was more harder than now.
Yeah. Oh,
Now we are in another
yeah.
situation. We are trying to open the enterprises, the offices, the public transport to after summer.
Uh-huh.
Um, Open for all.
Uh,
Have the vacuum and well, it's a better time.
yeah, yeah.
March March 2022, 22 was more harder.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad it's better now. Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So see you.
Okay. Stay safe. And
Thanks.
thank you.
And we are talking.
All right. See you later. All right. Bye.
Bye. Bueno, pues aquí se acaba esta charla. Espectacular. No puedo decir otra cosa. Ya tenía la intuición de que iba a ser muy especial hablar con él y que tenía mucho que contarnos. Y bueno, pues dedicarle un ratillo, porque la verdad es que merece la pena escuchar a Kevin como una de las voces de todo lo que sucedió en aquellos años y que, bueno, pues sigue en activo. Un abrazo a todos y a todas y cuidaros mucho.